Right now in New York, my home state, but not in my area, upstate New York, Buffalo to be specific, residents are experiencing the after effects of a horrific blizzard that ripped through the area right around Christmas time. At the time of me recording this video, the death toll is at 28 people. However, there are people that have yet to be found, and likely this death toll is going to go up. But that's not what we're going to talk about today, because while that on its own is horrifying, and my heart goes out to the family who lost loved ones, and there are amazing images of the destruction of this winter storm that we could be discussing, the reality is that this storm has brought out, in large part, the absolute worst of people. Today we're going to talk about the looting that immediately kicked off post the storm settling. We're going to talk about how these people are not Aladdins, they're not stealing supplies to make their family safer or anything like that. They're opportunistic scumbags, and they're actually hampering the relief efforts, making it so that people who took shelter in places like churches don't have access to food and are further at risk, and they have to actually get food sent over to them from other parts of New York that don't have this criminal mentality.
Well, adding to the misery of this historic storm, there are reports of people breaking into stores and stealing merchandise here in the city of Buffalo. Look at this video shared to us by the owner of Nickel City Liquor. It's on Niagara Street. We're told 13 bottles were stolen, others smashed along with a door and window. It's a situation that local law enforcement is taking very seriously at a time when they need to focus on the recovery effort.
So what I just showed you was a video of a man breaking into a liquor store. A liquor store. He did this to steal 13 bottles of booze, and as you can see for the video, the snow is up about 3/4 of the way on the door, yet he's climbing over it, smashing the glass in order to get in.
We have seen claims across social media of looting in the city of Buffalo, and it's in different areas. Alyssa sent us these videos near Grant and West Ferry. It seems to show businesses with smashed windows. Another video shows a disheveled 7-Eleven near Hampshire and Niagara. Tonight, state police say only a few incidents have been confirmed, but we are hearing of more happening, including on Bailey Avenue.
And this, let's be clear, is not an isolated incident. There have been videos put out of people at the Family Dollar looting. There's been looting at Walmarts in the area, and people are raiding places like Cricket Wireless and other cell phone providers, because we all know what you need during a storm is the latest and greatest smartphone at free of charge. So this is what's going on in the city of Buffalo right now at this moment, and this has dire consequences, but this was not unforeseeable. You see, as a part of the criminal justice reforms that were introduced in the state of New York, one of the things that was instituted is that in order for the police to make an arrest in terms of looting, they need to actually witness the looting happening while it's happening. So therefore, we end up in a situation where people can get away with looting, and you've lowered the consequences for that as long as you don't actually get caught right away. And because everybody in this area, including the governor who's down there visiting, is focusing on the people who might be trapped in their homes, who might have had power cut off, and all of these other problems, these looters are taking that opportunity and stealing everything that they possibly can and making things so much worse.
We're making the strides and the efforts to save lives. Well, at the same time, they're subtracting from our efforts.
Pastor Al Robinson of Truth Urban Ministry in Lovejoy has been working tirelessly to save lives in his community since the storm first arrived on Friday. Their church, one of the only places with power for hundreds who they've worked to save, rescuing people on snowmobiles and by other means.
Now look, anytime that there's a crisis, anytime that there's bad people acting up and acting all crazy, there are good people. So it's great to hear about this church going around and rescuing people, and actually they ended up with about 150 people safely in the church, and they needed supplies for them, and this is where we run into the problem. And I'll let the local news segment explain so that you can understand exactly how bad these people are.
We started extracting people from houses on Saturday that were stuck in their homes they wouldn't have made it.
At one point, 130 people were together inside the church, including babies as young as 9 months old.
The reason why we have a baby shortage right now is because they single-handedly stole it all out of the Family Dollars and the Dollar Generals, and they're just stealing it and they're boasting about it online.
Pastor Robinson says because of widespread break-ins throughout the storm, what is typically a food desert, East Buffalo, is now even worse. The places they depend on to get essential goods for their community, like Family Dollar, ravaged.
Now, the guy misspoke for a second and he said baby shortage, but what he actually meant was baby formula shortage. And yes, you heard him right. Essentially, what is going on is that they had all of these people in the church, including families, including young infants, and those young infants needed formula. So they go to the local stores nearby in order to get that formula, only to discover that they've been looted of everything. Now, a lot of people are going to say, oh, well, if they're stealing baby formula, it's okay because they probably have a baby that they need to feed. And who are you to say that the babies are in the church are so much more valuable than the babies outside of the church? No, this is not the case. Remember, there's a nationwide baby formula shortage, so baby formula is in fact very valuable. So part of the reason why it's being stolen from each and every store in the area is due to the fact that it has a high resale value. So the residents of Buffalo have to deal with hungry babies due to the fact that people are looting baby formula amongst every other thing. And also, the problem that this is creating is that it makes these stores and these trips and this valuable time wasted when you go to them and you find out that none of the food, none of the water, none of anything is actually there because it's all been looted. So you're wasting time, resources, all while you have a bunch of people sheltering in a church seeking sanctuary from the storm that has claimed so many lives.
These people, I just don't understand why they just don't care about their neighbor.
The number of people that I found breaking into stores, I mean, you know, I hear Save-A-Lot say they're not even going to open up again. So here's another store on the east side that's not going to open.
Now, what makes this matter worse is that, of course, this is going to lead to a bunch of these stores closing forever. So the community is not only devastated in a moment of crisis by these criminals, by these opportunistic people stealing whatever they can find, but they're also devastated by the fact that these stores will no longer return. And due to the fact that Buffalo has such a high crime rate, you end up in an instance where you're going to already have a shortage of stores because there's so much theft going on already, and now store options are dwindling even further. On top of that, I don't know if you guys have noticed this in the images, it's not just regular looting. It's not just people going into the store, maybe they have to break a window in order to get in, taking essentials off the shelves, or even non-essentials off the shelves. As you can see by these images, there's fun being had. These people are enjoying themselves. They're smashing up everything. It's one thing to steal all of the stuff. You can maybe make the case that it's an emergency and these people didn't prepare for the emergency, therefore they're stealing, but they're only doing so because of the crisis. But they're having fun. They're destroying the displays. They're destroying the stores. It's one thing to steal a whole bunch of coffee from a coffee display. It's another thing to smash all of the things that hold the coffee. It's one thing to take the toilet paper off the shelf. It's another thing to rip the shelf down and stomp on it and break it up. And that's what's going on in this area. That's what these people are doing when those supplies are needed for people who are actually seeking shelter, following the rules of our society. And not only are they not going to have them during the storm, not only do they need them to be trucked in from outside of Buffalo, but they also aren't going to have these stores available to them when things return. Again, if you want to make the case that these are just Aladdin stealing from Cricket Wireless because they absolutely needed to eat that phone to survive, that's one thing, but why do they have to smash up every display? Why do they have to rip up the registers, smash them open in order to get things out? Why do they have to cripple the business so that it cannot open in the future? Because, you know, if you steal a bunch of stuff, that's one thing, but at least the business can open up and start providing services to the community after this crucial storm.
Buffalo police say they're aware of multiple reports of break-ins and are working to control the situation.
Looting, when people are losing their lives in this harsh winter storm, is just absolutely reprehensible.
Now you have the Buffalo mayor right there and Governor Kathy Hochul, who's actually from Buffalo, right next to them, and they're talking about how these criminals are really bad people and they're actually really hurting the relief effort, really hurting the community. But the thing is, these are both Democrats. These are both pro-criminal justice reform type of people, and Kathy Hochul could have changed the laws. She had a million chances to hold these people accountable for the crimes crimes that they committed. Instead, they decided to soften the laws specifically on looting, and now with that low barrier of consequences, you made it so that people were more likely to do it, and this is obviously the expected result. And by the way, we have footage of these looters. They're laughing, they're smiling, they're having a great time. A bunch of them are filming themselves as they're destroying the displays, just so you know that they're enjoying it. They're stealing stuff that they don't need, they're stealing stuff for profit, and they're doing this all while residents of Buffalo are suffering.
And the law enforcement community here in Western New York tells me the vast majority are people just using the storm as an excuse to steal. Most of these have been focused in the city of Buffalo. Erie County DA John Flynn tells me no one has been arrested on the charge of looting yet. That's because the charge requires police to observe people stealing, and most times people are gone before officers arrive. Now, because they're responding to bigger emergencies.
Just think about how asinine that is. Because of laws that require an officer to actually observe the looting in motion in order to make an arrest for looting, nobody has been arrested on that charge. You have video after video of these people taking advantage of the system, smashing up a cash drawer in a restaurant that is owned by somebody in the community just because they want the cash. They're not stealing food from the restaurant, newsflash. They're going for the money, and you can't make any arrests due to the fact that you actually have to physically have an officer see this going on. It's absurd, it's insane, it's ridiculous, and the fact is, people like Governor Kathy Hochul, people like this mayor, while they can go out of their way to condemn it, have created an environment that not only tolerates this, but incentivizes this kind of behavior. Remember, these people are acting no different than the so-called civil rights protesters that we saw during the George Floyd riots. Should we be surprised that those opportunistic people who were never held accountable for their actions are doing the exact same thing a couple years later when there's a blizzard, depriving people who need desperately the supplies to survive of those supplies right around Christmas time?
The video you're seeing right here is from Frank's Red Hots. This was video that was sent in to us from the owner. Now, law enforcement, because of scenes like these all across social media, we're seeing it, you're seeing it, they are frustrated. But that will be changing soon, according to Flynn, as Buffalo police officers are starting to resume more normal road patrols. Flynn echoed Mayor Byron Brown's comments from Monday afternoon that the vast majority of the people committing these crimes are the worst of the worst.
Look, these are the kind of scenes that happen when you refuse to treat criminals with the disdain that they deserve, when you refuse to view them as the worst aspect of our society, as the dredges of our society, as a problem that needs to be dealt with, and instead you start talking about how, oh, it must be society's fault. Honestly, we need some compassion for these criminals. They're just Aladdin. Not only do they steal critical supplies at the most crucial moment, but they do so with glee. They smash everything up. They destroy their community because you didn't remove them from the community earlier based on their previous offenses. What you're looking at is disgusting. And by the way, we are not going to have a direct line from this store being looted of supplies and this person losing their lives, but make no mistake, the cost is not only paid in goods and services, the cost is not only paid in dollars in higher prices for people in the community, store closures and all of that, it's also paid in blood. You can't take all these emergency supplies, go out of your way to smash everything up, and not expect in a storm that has already claimed the lives of 28 people for this to not have deadly consequences. Now look, this is the worst of the worst. These are the dredges of our society. I've said it before and I'll say it again, but that doesn't mean that some people weren't acting well. We showed that pastor in that black church going around on the snowmobile, grabbing up people from their homes, giving them shelter in his sanctuary, feeding them, getting food secured from out of town due to the fact that the criminals just raided everything. But there's also another couple out in Buffalo that saw a tour bus that broke down in their area and stepped up to the plate and showed us who we could be as Americans if only we just chose that path.
Longtime Buffalo residents Alex Campagna and his wife Andrea were hunkering down at home Friday when the storm hit.
We knew that with the storm approaching, it would be best to keep our pantry stocked, our fridge and freezers filled.
You know, there's something absolutely crucial about what he just said, and that is when you know the storm is coming, it makes a lot of sense to stock up on food for an emergency. This is one of the reasons why my channel is actually connected with preparewithajw.com, a food storage company, but I'll leave the link in the description of this video if you guys want to check it out, because it is important to be food secure, because not only is securing yourself the honorable thing to do for your family, but it also allows you to secure other people who are in need. On top of that, all the time we hear about these looters and how they're desperate and all that. They get the weather reports just like everyone else. They chose not to be prepared. If they're actually stealing because they're unprepared, in reality, they're stealing because they're opportunistic scum. So there's no excuse for not having what you need in the home prior to the storm. Everybody knows it's coming. They know it's coming a week out. You have every opportunity to do the right thing, do what is necessary to prepare yourself, and you say that they didn't based on nothing because you want to make excuses for their stealing. Well, these people did prepare, and we're going to show you what happens and what you can do when you're actually secured in your own home.
And it's a good thing they were prepared. At 2 o'clock, there was a knock at their door.
2 men knocked on our door, and I met them out front with some shovels as they mentioned that their vehicle was stuck. And halfway down my driveway, they said, we're part of a tour group from South Korea, and we have 10 people in our vehicle. And I said, get all of them inside our house right now, because the road was too dangerous to be on. And the snow was falling too hard.
Again, this guy's all goofy. He's all smiley. He's wearing his Buffalo Bills little windbreaker thing, little sweater, whatever you call it. But he's got a heart of gold. He shows us what we could be as Americans. When a tour bus breaks down near his area, people from a foreign country are stuck in the storm. He says, no, you guys don't need help being dug out. You need to come inside because the roads are far too dangerous for you. And he has them inside, and he's able to share his bounty with these people, with these strangers.
In all, Alex and Andrea welcoming 10 tourists from South Korea. They had left Washington, D.C. that morning, headed for Niagara Falls. The couple opening up their home to the stranded travelers for the weekend, even having a special celebration for a newlywed couple in the group.
We thought, hey, we have a bottle of champagne. Let's get it chilled and surprise them with a little honeymoon toast after dinner. And I think that really helped make everyone feel so comfortable and at home.
Again, I know this is like the white pill portion of the video, but you need to see the good in people to understand what we could be, so we can condemn those who choose to be evil. So this guy not only has the supplies, he not only invites 10 strangers, a lot of them I'm guaranteeing don't speak the language, into his home. He not only feeds them, but he realizes that some of them are on a trip, an anniversary trip, at least one couple, and he decides to break out a bottle of champagne that he had stored to give them a toast, to give them an experience. This is the kind of community that Alexis de Tocqueville wrote about when he traveled the United States of America. This is the American ingenuity. This is the compassion, the love, everything on display right here in this moment of crisis, as others just undermine the civilization by taking what they want, not caring about the fate of others. It's beautiful, and this guy has a nice message. I'm gonna play it for you before I go back to blackpilling the hell out of you.
Tonight, Alex's message for us all.
No matter where you are in the world, if you receive a knock on the door at your home and you open the door to perfect strangers, you never know who's going to come inside, but the compassion and love that human beings have for each other triumph.
Now look, I love this guy. I love his spirit and all of that. But here's the thing. Unfortunately, in the United States of America, no matter who you are or where you are, when you open your door up to perfect strangers, a lot of times it doesn't turn out to be as good as this. This was a crisis situation, and these were people that were on a vacation. They were going to tour the Niagara Falls. They were good, kind-hearted people from a great country. You guys know how I feel about the Koreans. Most of my friends are Koreans, and they were so happy to be welcomed, and obviously they appreciated it and all of that. But in reality, we have so many Americans, so many people in this country that are just looking for an opportunity to take advantage. And no way in hell am I going to open my doors in a blizzard to some randoms that are covered up in masks that would be looting the store down the block for me, if not for me letting them loot all of my stuff. So while it's great to show compassion, while it's great to help people, I mean, I've seen people stuck in the snow before, and I've done minor things nowhere near as hospitable as these people. people in order to help them. In reality, that is the country that we could have. That is the people that we could be. But unfortunately, so many people in this country are exactly like these looters and the people that enable them. Anyway, that's all I really have for you guys today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, show me by leaving a like. You can subscribe for more content. Follow me on all my social media. Support me via the support links in the description box of this video. This has been me talking about the looting and some of the decent people in the Buffalo Blizzard. Till next time.